and welcome to this presentation of the PAR MLS violation changes that are taking effect October 1st, 2021. My name is Wendy Alley. I'm the Vice President of MLS Operations here at the Pensacola Association of REALTORS. And I'm going to walk you through the changes, what they mean, and what you need to look out for. So let's talk about the PAR MLS Department. We have a mission statement, and that is to deliver value-added MLS services and support that meets or exceeds members' expectations while protecting and providing accurate MLS data. So we are all about the accuracy of the data going into the MLS, knowing full well that you need that to be accurate. Appraisers need that to be correct and accurate. Everyone that is looking at our data, which is so many people, need that to be correct. And so that's why we take this very seriously. This data is important to so many people. So that is our mission statement. So going forward, how do changes happen? How do these changes start in the MLS committee? So any changes are brought before the PAR MLS committee, and that committee consists of a group of your peers. Any member of the association can be a member of the PAR MLS committee. So if you are interested in joining the committee, we would love to have you. You can just contact myself or anyone here at the PAR office and let us know that you would like to be on that committee. The decisions from the committee are then approved by the board of directors. So anything that comes from the MLS committee is always blessed ultimately by the board of directors. And any member of the PAR MLS can bring a request before the PAR MLS committee. So if you have a great idea of how our MLS needs to change, or something to be added, or a rule to be added or taken away, you are welcome to contact me. I will send you an official MLS committee form, request form, and you can bring that before the committee to be voted on. So why the changes now? What is happening now? The PAR staff, MLS staff, noticed a huge increase in the monthly fines, MLS fines. So we generally were fining somewhere between 25 and 30 fines a month. That jumped to 82 in the last month. So we noticed that not everybody was taking these rules very seriously. So we looked at it. Really the most fined and the most abused rule that we have in our system is not marking a listing sold within 5 business days. You do have 5 business days to do that. We don't count weekends or holidays. We also noticed an uptick in coming soon violations. So we have several rules that surround coming soon listings. And we've noticed that people were not paying any attention to those rules, and we were getting more violations for those as well. So we took a look at the rules and regs. In general, there were a few inconsistencies in where the more serious rules, when they were broken, there wasn't any more consequences to those serious rules, and the fine was not any more than $100. So with those inconsistencies, we took a closer look at those, and then the staff made a recommendation to the MLS committee. Those were all voted through, and the committee actually added a couple additional changes, and all the changes that I'm about to tell you about take effect October 1st of 2021. So let's look at exactly what has changed. Our violations now fall into 3 categories. We have minor violations. Those are ones that are correctable, and we give you 2 business days to correct. Now, the only reason a fine would come into play with a minor violation is if you were, once you were given those 2 business days, if you did not correct it within those 2 business days, then a $100 fine goes to your broker. We then have the next level, which are prohibited activities. These are things that happen that you cannot correct. In other words, an action has been taken that you cannot undo. You cannot turn back time and do that or not do that when it was supposed to happen. Those are all going to come in with automatic fines. They cannot be correctable, so those will just be a $200 fine to your broker. And then we took our serious violations and named them major violations because we had minor, so it made sense to change that to major violations. Those come with an automatic fine of $300. And some of those are correctable, not all of them are, but the ones that are correctable, there is a 2 business days. You do have 2 business days to correct those, or you will get an additional fine. So let's look at all of these in more detail, and so that I can tell you exactly what has changed and what has been added. So when we look at minor violations, again, you have 2 business days to correct. The listing agent and the broker receive an email notice on any of these minor violations. So if you are the listing agent, you will receive an email. Your broker will also receive a copy of that email. You will have 2 business days. Again, we don't count weekends or holidays. So if you have questions, if you get one of those citation notices, it doesn't mean you have a fine. It just means that something is wrong with your listing and we're asking you to change something. So don't panic if you get those. It's not a fine. Just a citation notice saying something's wrong. If you ever have questions, please do not hesitate to call the MLS department and ask us any questions that you have. We are more than happy to help you. In fact, we would rather help you fix it than give you a fine. So you'll notice that these are $100. This is a $100 fine, and it does get billed to your broker if it is not corrected within those 2 business days. So you're looking at a very long list of minor violations. These consist of things, failure to do a price change within 24 hours, failure to map a listing in the correct location. I'm not going to read all of these because these are all minor violations that have not changed, that have been here from the start. So I am going to go to the next page, which is just a continuation of some of these minor violations. Some of them to note on this page would be putting any personal information in a property description. That is one that is a rule. You cannot put a builder name in a property description. You can't have any of your personal information show there. That is the biggest one here on this page. And again, none of these have changed or been added. So on the next page, the ones in red are the ones that have either moved from a different category or that have been added new. So let's talk about these. The first one is uploading a photo, virtual tour, or other media that depicts marketing or a promotional message made on behalf of the listing broker, seller, or third-party company. Now, this is not a new rule. It was moved from prohibited activities because it can be corrected. So it no longer fit under the prohibited activities level. This means that you cannot put your name, your company logo, a watermark, anything like that on a photo or a virtual tour or any media that you upload into the MLS. That has to be completely unbranded. Those are IDX rules, and the reasons for this rule is when you're sending listings out to your clients, you do not want any of that listing information of the listing agent to show. You would need them to contact you to get more information and to work with you directly. The second one here is uploading a photo, virtual tour, or other media that violates copyrights. So that means if you do not own that photo, you did not take that photo, or you do not have permission to use that photo, then that is against the rules. You cannot upload those to our MLS. So it's very tempting, I know, if you have a listing that's on Pensacola Beach, to go Google Pensacola Beach and look at all the beautiful photos that pop up. However, you don't own those photos, and you more than likely don't have permission from whoever took that photo to upload it into the MLS. you can get sued over this. And so this is a very important rule to remember, that if you don't own the photo or have written permission to use it, then do not upload it to the MLS. That is somewhat of a new one that's coming into the minor violations category. Uploading a photo that contains people or persons is also a new one for minor violations. This has everything to do with security. If you accidentally get a child or someone that is at that property in a shot, these photos get syndicated out to over somewhere between 80 and 100 different websites. So the general public are seeing these photos, and if they're seeing that person, they know that they can go to that address and more than likely find that person at that property. So it is a security issue. So we do have that rule that says no people or persons can be in the photos that you upload on your listing. The next one is when a participant other than the listing broker places a for sale sign on a property. This is not a new rule, but it was moved from prohibited activities because it can be corrected. The next one is when a participant other than the listing broker places a sold sign on a property prior to closing without the listing broker's authorization. Again, that was moved from prohibited activities. And then we added as well failure to update the projected closing date on a listing. Now, this is not a new rule. It just was not ever placed into our rules and regs officially. This is something that we look for on a nightly basis, but we just needed to add it officially to our rules and regs. So that is not a new rule, but one that we did have to add on these inconsistencies that we found. So that is our minor violations. And again, these are all correctable. You will receive a notice and you will get 2 business days to correct those before a fine goes into play. So let's look at, excuse me, prohibited activities. These are not correctable. And you do have an automatic $200 fine to the broker if you are caught violating one of these rules. So the 2 that you need to pay attention to are 2 that used to be in the minor violations category that were $100. They are now a $200 fine. So the first one is failure to input a new listing within 2 business days of obtaining all signatures on a listing agreement. This one was moved from minor violations. You have several different things that you can do. So if you are in a situation where you cannot input the listing within 2 business days, or your seller is directing you to not enter it until a certain day, you need to get that in writing from your seller. It can be a part of your listing agreement, or it can be an addendum that you add to your listing agreement. That's up to you how you want to do that. You also have the option to put the listing in as a coming soon listing, or just withhold it from the MLS altogether. If the owner decides to not put the listing in within those 2 business days, then you do need something in writing, and you do need to send it to us in the MLS department. So those, that's just a quick overview of that rule. You do have other ways that you can do this without putting it in within 2 business days, but the general rule is you're putting that listing in within 2 business days. That means that we're not counting weekends or holidays. And what we do is we look at the market date for this rule. So be very careful when you're inputting market date that you are putting the day that your seller wishes for it to be active in the MLS. In all cases, that should be most likely the day that you're putting it in the MLS. So that is just a good overview of that rule. The second one that was moved from minor violations is failure to report a closed or sold listing within 5 business days. Again, this is something that you cannot undo. You can't turn back time and mark that when you were supposed to. So this again is going to be an automatic $200 fine to the broker. So just be careful when you're marking things closed that you're doing that within 5 business days of that closing. The one that is new in this category is when a listing agent submits an offer to a seller while the property is in a coming soon status. So our coming soon status definition says that no offers can be submitted while it's in a coming soon status. So if you are the listing agent and your property is in a coming soon status and you get an offer from another agent, the best thing to do is to contact your seller, let them know that you have an offer, but you cannot give it to them until the property becomes active. So you have to, it's fine to let them know that an offer has been or is trying to be submitted, but you do need to mark that active before you submit that offer to your seller. So keep in mind, again, this is something that can't be undone. If you submit an offer to a seller while it's in a coming soon status, you can be fined up to $200, or you can be fined the automatic $200 fine going to your broker. So just keep in mind, those in red are the new ones that have either changed or come in as new. The other two are ones that were already under our prohibited activities list. So we will, also I need to tell you that an additional $100 is added to the fine for each instance a member violates the same prohibited activity within a calendar year. So let's say you get fined for failure to report your closed listing within 5 business days, and you get that fine in February of any given year. Your broker's going to be fined the $200. But let's say a few months down the road, if this happens again, then we add $100 to it. So then you are fined $300 for that prohibited activity. It will continue to add $100 for that calendar year as you continue to break that rule. It will reset again with the new year. So this is within a calendar year of this $100 added to the fine. So just be careful. Just pay attention to your market date when putting in a listing, as well as making sure that you are closing out your listing within that 5 business days, and that you're not submitting offers to your seller while your property is in a coming soon status. Those are important things to remember. So let's look at our final category, which is major violations. These are a $300 automatic fine to the broker. Now, some of these are correctable, some of these are not correctable. So if they are correctable, we give you 2 business days to correct. If you do not correct those within 2 business days, we add $100 to that fine until every 2 days until that gets corrected. So it's important that if you get a major violation that you correct it if it is correctable as soon as possible, so that you will save yourself getting any more violation fines down the road. So the first one that we have that was moved from the minor violation category was failure to mark a coming soon listing active if shown. So if you have a coming soon listing and it gets shown and you're aware that it was shown, it needs to be marked active as soon as humanly possible. If we find that it's still in a coming soon status and we can see that it's been shown, then that will be a major violation of $300. So be very careful with those coming soon listings, that you're not allowing it to be shown. You are communicating with the seller and letting them know that they cannot show it either while it's in a coming soon status. If you are using the PAR addendum, coming soon addendum, when the seller signs that, they're signing a statement that they understand that it cannot be shown and they cannot receive offers while in a coming soon status. So it is important that you educate your sellers about that. The next one that was moved from minor violations is failure to mark a coming soon listing active if an offer is submitted to the seller. So we talked about the action of submitting an offer to the seller while in a coming soon status. That is a prohibited activity. But again, if you're caught doing that and then you fail to mark it active, that is a major violation. So Keep in mind of those coming soon rules and make sure that you're not violating those while that offer or while that listing is in a coming soon status. The third one that is actually new that was added is failure to conduct a showing through the listing broker. This means that if you do not do your due diligence and follow the directions of the showing, so let's say you're looking at a listing, it says contact the listing agent for an appointment. You fail to contact the listing agent and you just show up at the house and let yourself in, and we learn about that, then that is a major violation. We had one recently that was reported where it was very clear in all the agent notes and everywhere else on the listing that they should have contacted the listing agent or broker for a showing that this person did not. They went to the home and let themselves in, and there were all kinds of alarms. The police showed up. It was just kind of a mess. So be very careful. Make sure that you are following those showing instructions, because if we can prove that you went to a listing without any permission and it needed to have permission, then that is a major violation. The fourth one in this is failure to obtain the listing agreement in writing that includes the seller's authorization to submit the agreement to the Pensacola Multiple Listing Service. You must have a listing agreement on everything that you place into our MLS. That is our number one rule. If you go to our rules and regs, rule number 1 says every listing must have a listing agreement. We can actually, even though they're not submitted to us, every one that you have, we can go to you and request that you send us a copy of that at any time. So make sure that you are obtaining that listing agreement before you place it in the MLS. So the other ones here, I'm not going to read all of them to you. These were already in our major violation category or our serious violations that we renamed to major violations. These are all ones that we've had probably from the beginning of time. One of them of note is that you cannot include an MLS printout as part of a contract. That is the last one in this category. So make sure that if anything is in the MLS that needs to go in the contract, then you place it in the contract. Don't just print out an MLS report and put that as part of a contract. That is against our rules. So that would also fall into a major violation. All right, so let's talk a minute about how we check our data. We have an automatic data checking system. It's called iCheck, and it runs overnight. So at night, at midnight, it runs, and it checks some of our automatic rules that it can check. Some of those are marking a listing within 5 business days or putting the listing in within 2 business days. It also checks if you have a photo within 10 business days. And keep in mind that marking a listing withdrawn or canceled does not negate the photo rule. So if you put a listing in the MLS in any way, shape, or form, it must have a photo. The only exception is coming soons do not require a photo, but if it goes to any other status besides coming soon, then it does have to have a photo within 10 business days. So keep that in mind as well. Most of these citation emails will come from our automatic iCheck system. And we look at those every morning when we come in to see what has gone out, making sure that if anything bounced, that it goes directly to that person. We try and figure out what if the email address was wrong. So we're overseeing that, making sure that you're getting these emails. We also have a correction button in Paragon. So when you're looking at a listing in any type of report, you will see at the top of that a little button that says correction. You can, if you find any kind of data that you feel is incorrect, you can report that to us. We will check it. If we find that it is incorrect data, then we just send a simple citation to that listing agent and ask them to correct that and give them 2 business days to correct it. So we do depend on our members to help us with this because we don't have enough staff to check every listing every day. So we depend on you to turn those in for us if you find incorrect data. If you do turn these in, you are kept strictly confidential. We take this very seriously. In other words, we could lose our job if we were ever to tell someone who turned them in. So this is kept strictly confidential when you do report a citation to us in any way, shape, or form. All right, so I feel like I have missed something, maybe not. Okay, so keep in mind, all these changes that we've talked about start October 1st of 2021. Thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for helping us keep our data correct in our system. It really takes all of us to make sure and ensure that this data is correct. If you have any questions about these changes or about anything MLS, you can always email us. Our address is mls@pensacolarealtors.org. You can also find additional information at the website shown here, which is parwiki.com, so PARWIKI.com. That's going to take you to a site that has a lot of definitions. It is also posted, all of these changes that we made to the official rules and regs are posted there as well. So you can look at those in detail if you would like. But thank you for helping us keep our data the best that we can keep it.